Hello, welcome. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, the Nigeria's commercial capital. I am Frank Omalape. All right, it's the first business day of the week, Monday, the 17th January, 2022. All right, let's get started with the global economic outlook and what is likely to dominate the week in terms of policies and economic decisions across our business world. Let's not forget to tell you that U.S. inflation rate for December 2021 came out last week and is expected as 7%, a 41-year high, suggesting that the world's largest economy's inflation worries are not abating. And so in December, the consumer price index rose by 0.5% month-on-month basis. The December inflation figure was due to high prices for shelter, used cars and trucks. Prices for used vehicles were up by more than 37% year-on-year, while energy prices rose by about 29%. Gasoline in particular increased by almost 50%. Jerome Powell, talking about the Fed chairman, on Tuesday warned that high inflation rate is a severe threat to the recovery, and that the Fed would need to act to prevent it from becoming entrenched. Remember that even the Federal Reserve U.S. Bank is giving Nigeria tough conditions if they should approach the country for loan. And that's why they are asking Nigeria to devalue its currency and also to raise interest rate. Meanwhile, CPI, Consumer Price Index, rose in Canada almost about 4.7% in December. That's an 18-year high. But back here in Nigeria now, let's take a look at what's happening here in the Nigeria economy. The World Bank, in its latest Global Economic Prospect report released on Tuesday last week, projects that Nigeria economy will grow by 2.5% in 2022 and 2.8% in 2023 respectively. This 2022 forecast is an upward review from the estimated 2.4% growth projected earlier. According to the bank, higher oil prices and activities in the telecommunications sector and financial services will drive growth up slightly. Now, recall the federal government's oil-related income forecast is high at 3.4 trillion naira. However, analysts say the projected oil price benchmark of $62 per barrel is reasonable. And so they expect that the oil production benchmark of 1.8 million barrel per day, including condensate, is not ambitious. But let's look at the key economic activities to watch out for in 2022, and that include the electioneering, well, of course, which is a pre-election year. You also have to look out for the removal of subsidy and, of course, flotation of the naira. So these are key economic policies that we should watch out for. But analysts have said that the removal of subsidies may likely not happen because it's a pre-election year and the government may want to perhaps take advantage of that to buy the people's support. But let's see how that goes. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from here. Here's what's coming up in a moment on the show. Higher oil prices drive Nigeria's economy by 2.5% in 2022. This is according to World Bank in its latest Global Economic Prospect report last week. Oil prices have surged in recent rising to about $81.92 a barrel in the first week of the year to about $85.16 in the second week. Our focus in the first part of the show, therefore, is to look at how Nigeria plans to cash out of this latest rise in the prices of crude oil in the international market and its impact on the government's oil revenue target. Plus, in the second part of the show, oil stocks rally on the back of third quarter positive earnings and dividends payout. That is what is dominating in the capital market as we speak. So those are some of the things to watch out for on the show today. But we'll take a break now. When we come back, of course, it will be time to delve into the conversation earnestly. We'll take a moment. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back now. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here. So, all right, let's get started now. Take a look at some of the top business headlines on the show today. The first one is talking about the Anchors Borrowers Program initiative of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has been described as a major agricultural breakthrough and a source of pride to the country as rice farmers continue to count gains under the scheme. To commemorate the successes recorded under the program, particularly in the area of rice cultivation, the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, in collaboration with the CBN, would this week unveil the world's largest rice pyramid in Abuja. RIFAN also stated it will use the occasion to flag off its 2021 to 2022 dry season farming activities and celebrate the annual rice festival from an average yield of 1.8 metric tons per hectare in the pre-ABP era. The initiative has increased the country's average yield per hectare for rice, paddy and maize to about 5 metric tons per hectare. And now marketers of liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, popularly known as cooking gas, have decried the continuous rise in the price of the item, saying prices now rise by 550,000 naira per truck daily. The marketers also allege possible manipulation in the LPG supply system by persons who might be causing a constant increase in prices, despite the claim that the 7.5% value-added tax on imported LPG had not been activated yet. The marketers under the aegis of Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers disclosed that the cost of a truckload of LPG at the depot had risen to over 10.1 million naira as at last Friday, 14th January, debunking the notion that prices had started dropping. Executive Secretary of the association, Mr. Bassi, further said that as at Friday, they purchased the product around 10.10 million naira per truck, even higher than what they bought the previous weeks. Well, and that's it for now with the top business stories. Coming up in a moment after this break, our focus in the first part of this show is to look at how Nigeria plans to cash out of the latest rise in the prices of crude oil in the international market and its impact on the government's oil revenue target in 2022 budget. Well, we'll take a break now. We'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Glad to have you join us now. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here. So it's time to turn our attention. The World Bank position projecting Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.5% in 2022 and 2.8% in 2023, respectively. Of course, the 2022 forecast is a slight upward review from the estimated 2.4% growth in 2021. According to the bank, high oil prices and activities in the service sectors, such as telecommunications and financial services, will drive this slightly upward growth in 2022. All right, let's make sense of these developments now. Mr. Olusegun Okwande is a chartered accountant. He joins us here now. Thank you for your time on the program.
Good morning, Frank, and good morning to our viewers.
You're welcome. Okay, let's look at these now. On the back of the recent surge in the prices of crude oil, the IMF came up with this projection. And so what are the opportunities for Nigeria with this projection, latest projection from World Bank?
Yeah, the projection is huge. If I will take it first from the prologue that you read, that we had the diverse opportunity in the financial institution and also telecoms, considering what the pandemic brought our way 2019 and 2020, and also the fact that fintech, I think, is the order of the day, and people are seeing areas where they can ease the process of making things to move very smoothly. So the opportunity is there, but like you read, this is a projection. How much have we fared, even with that which you had in the last few years when other people were swimming over the issue of pandemic?
Right.
But the fact remains that we need the willingness, that political will on the path of our leaders who are in charge of the resources to be well determined to make sure that some of the promises in terms of infrastructure and some other things that will make the business to grow
Right.
and succeed for a common man should just be there. But for me, there is vast opportunity because with this you have other arms of the businesses like the entertainment world, like the hospitality businesses coming up because we are opening up gradually.
But how well do you think we can maximize this? Because if you look at the oil revenue projection or target in the 2022 budget at about 4 trillion naira, with the benchmark of about $62 per barrel and the target of 1.8 million production as well. How well do you think we can maximize this target?
Yeah, we can maximize it if we are determined to do what is needful, and our leaders are very conscious of the fact that it's not about them, but about the populace. How do I mean? An average businessman has his own contribution to the economy. And like we keep saying, the development of the entrepreneurship, grooming more entrepreneur who takes like 60–70% will definitely contribute to this GDP, not only the multinationals alone, because trickles here and there makes mighty ocean, but situation where the entrepreneur are not having the enabling environment.
Right.
And you know, there are the startups. If you get frustrated as a startup, how do you want to continue? Those who are up there, the multinational, can still wave through the weather in the time of storm. But for the startups, if the environment is not enabled for you to continue to progress in the business, you discover that even the projection that we have will be a very very daunting task even for us to achieve. So part of the things the government need to work on is how do we enhance? We've seen instances where we've had ease of doing business. Indeed, do we have that operational? We've had problem with our power sector, and you know, and every entrepreneur that wants to work anywhere, what do they need? They need power. How determined? What is the political will on increasing the power supply that we have to an average person? If some of these things are put in place, you develop the entrepreneur. An entrepreneur that is starting with a capital base of 100,000 and is having the basic things around him, definitely grows his businesses. And with that, you see them paying what is expected to the government in terms of tax to make sure that the revenue increase. Not only should we look in the area of oil prices going on, but let's diversify into other areas, making sure that we can raise our tax base by making sure that other people contribute to the tax net, not just concentrating on the multinationals that are paying this.
Just
I think if government should do this, it will improve and the projection will work well.
Just before we get deeper into what you've just raised about diversification, and I think that's why the World Bank is coming up with that suggestion that telecommunications and the non-oil sector is the next big thing, perhaps. But let's talk more on the gains that we've seen and the surges we've seen in the international market. This year alone, it has grown. The oil prices has gone up as high as by 8.43%. And between last year, that is December, just about 2 weeks into the new year, we've seen the oil rising from about $81.92 to about $85.16. And also the question is, well, this looks good, really. But there are some analysts that have said that the release of more oil, crude, into the global market by the US and some other nations who are also releasing from their strategic reserve, there could be glut. That means that the prices could go down further than what it is now. And what chances do we have here? And how carefully or cautiously do you think Nigeria need to tread with this information with regard to the current price now?
Yeah, I think what we need to do is to be intentional in diversifying that. You see, it's just the basic law of demand and supply. So when you have so much supply in the chain,
Right.
and the demand is not meeting up to what you will definitely experience is crashing prices. And if that happens, what is our faith? The economy that will survive at that point in time are the people that have alternative. And we have so much. It's just that we are not tapping into it, and government is not looking in that direction. So several times have we said we should have learned our experience, our lesson during the COVID, when we had the price of crude oil crash to as low as entering into negative, because activities all went down. What is our fate if such comes to bear? With the projection we've had to say, okay, our budget is relying so much on saying, okay, 60-something dollar per barrel, that's what we are projecting on. What if this crash? What is the fallback that the government are? And that's why we've been preaching the aspect of saying, can we diversify into other mineral resources that we have? So much. We talk of gold, you talk of coal, you talk of other consumables, cocoa,
Right.
that we even take out. Part of the, I've said this times with that number that I think our problem is we ourselves. Because we have the people, we have good policies, but there's a gap. And there are technologies that we can ride upon.
Right.
But what's the gap? We lack process. The process is so wide that, and if you don't have process, if you have people, everybody will just be doing things the way they want. But if you have a process, and that's why we've been building, asking for system to run itself. So if there's a process in place that I know that I have to plug this in every sector, you see the growth. Not somebody coming with his own idea and thinking that, okay, this is the best way for me to run it, and the next administration is coming, no, we are jettisoning that. It kind of collapsed the economy and does not give the direction that we need. So with this, I feel government should think twice, considering our experience during COVID, to look at what other area can we tap into aside this oil that we are relying on.
Now, the Washington-based institution is also talking about the fact that yet there's opportunity. They're also projecting that there's opportunity in the telecom sector and other sectors like services sector as well. But then they've also raised some concern, and some of the concerns it's about the ability of the government to curb unrest and violence, and they've also raised the issue of social unrest with the, of course, with the COVID-19 threat as well, which you mentioned earlier. But how seriously do you think the country should take this? Because it's a concern they've raised. They've seen the opportunity in these sectors, but these are also the concerns on the table.
Yeah, I think part of the things we need to do, you see, there's what we call social contract between the government and the people that are being governed. How much have we entrenched into this to make sure that we fulfill the side of it? The last experience that we had, October 2020, was a result of people reacting to, they've bottled so much things within themselves. They only looked at a point, a step to climb on, to react. And that is what you see from youth. Right. Not only youth, everybody. If you are pushed to the wall, you are bound to react. And that's why we said, creates an atmosphere. Our people are very creative, very innovative. The only thing we lack, if you go to the outside world, who are the people that are behind the scene that makes things happen? They are the key guys who are Africans. But the only thing we lack here is that there are no basic infrastructure for them to ride. Come to think about it, where you have to start thinking how to generate power for yourself. The noise that you get from generator, do you know it distorts your thought flow? And you are in an environment where there is continuous power supply. With your AC, your system is cool. You think straight. And that's why we say, can we up the game of making sure that our power sector works the way it should work? If that is brought to bear, you'll discover that an average entrepreneur will sit in their closet. The noise pollution, do you know the health hazard it costs an average citizen
with the level of foams that we generate from our generator. Let there be this infrastructure to make sure that an average Nigerian can sit down, sit back, not the ones that will provide water ourselves, will provide electricity, will provide road, will provide all those things. If you put those things in place, it will definitely eat into your capital over time.
Right.
And
Right.
if care is not taken, those are the things to transfer into the end users who are the consumer. So government should try, like we've said, the business of government is to provide amenities, make the environment conducive for business to strive, lead the creativity and the management of the business into those that are called, which are the private sector.
Let's talk more on that sector, which the bank is looking at, talking about the World Bank. I'm sure they've seen that we're not maximizing that very well. If we have to review the second quarter from the first quarter of 2021 till date, how well do you think we're fared? Of course, we've seen that the third quarter rose to about, talking about non-oil export and some of the services industry as well, rising from about 455.4 billion naira to about 462.8 billion in the third quarter of 2021. And so it means that, yes, we're seeing growth in the sector coming on. But what are some of the policies we should begin to look at to ensure that we deepen this sector and encourage more participation, thereby, contributing to the general gross domestic product of the economy?
In as much as people give those figures that so much is being exported out, you ask yourself, how much of the other thing do we import? Because, this balance itself, if you look at the balance of trade, is about your import and your export. You have so much figure. We have figures about what we are exporting. Have we asked ourselves, how much are we importing? And that's why we discovered that our foreign exchange, we put pressure on it, because the level at which we import so many things into the country, even though there is growth in the export of some of the commodities that we have in this country, is not commensurate to balancing your trade. And that's a problem. And that's why we have said, can we look inward? Several things that is putting pressure
So what you're
on
saying
our
is
foreign
it's not
exchange
significant.
is
The export
to me,
level is not,
it's
okay.
not significant to the import things that we're doing. Can we talk about education? So everybody, as we speak, wants to leave the country and go and have his education out there. How do they get those things funded? It's via Forex. Everybody wants to travel out to buy as little as the pen that we use in writing.
Right.
Nothing that we are producing locally. So we can talk about the growth in the export grant, but we should look inward too and say, how much of the import are we doing? So much. And that is why we are not having the significant growth expected, possibly in our reserve or in our balance of trade, because importation outweigh the export that we can do. And as we've said, let's look locally. And that I don't take only to the government. I take to we the citizen too. How much do we believe in the product that are made locally, that we can patronize those entrepreneurs to make things work? And I always refer to the Asian country. They believed in themselves. There are room for you to grow. If some of these things are given, some of these entrepreneurs are given opportunity, and there's a feedback mechanism on how to improve on some of these things, and it's been done. So you discover that some of the things that are being imported, those we can do locally, and that can increase. We can be self-sufficient. Every of the developed country that we see today started by being self-sufficient with its people, and thereafter push some of the excess that they have to other countries to earn more money. So that you don't talk about we are growing the export, but the import is outweighing the export base.
You talk about the fact that we're not patronizing, our own locally produced goods here, and which of course reminds me of the fact that we have a Local Contact Act in place, or policy in place. How much of that policy are we exploring in terms of implementation? Perhaps maybe that's where the loophole is at the moment.
Yeah, the problem is implementation strategy. It's very, very low. I keep saying it because the process of achieving some of those strategy is a wide gap. The leaders who put some of these policies in place, you ask yourself the question, how much of it do they practice? And we all know the aspect that say leadership by example. You want to patron the things you are wearing. You said we should not buy import product, but how much of it local are you using? Let's go to automobiles too. We have a vast opportunity with some of the companies that that are already doing. I think what happened in Asia, China in particular, some of the vehicles that we're buying, what their government did is to support such indigenous company by first patronizing them. How much of some of these companies that produce automobiles in the country do we have the government promoting to buy them? Rather, we go for those products that are being brought into the country. So the government itself must start that process by leading by example. Take, for example, all states patronizing. I'm sure we will not be able to meet the producer will not be able to meet the demand of such. And what does that create? Other people will know that, okay, there is demand for this particular product. Can I go into it? And you see from 1 to 2 to 3, go to China. Do you know the number of China automobiles that we ride in this country? Different make. It is because now I can see that there is demand for this particular product, and this man is not meeting into it, so I can venture into it. But an average entrepreneur will not want to go into such, because even the person that is carrying out the business is not even maximizing that supply that is making to the market. So you see wastages and all those things. So government should be intentional by making sure that the policy in the area of local content of saying we produce this, we must do this, and it is government that will start. If government take the lead, you see the private sector key into it and patronizing them, and that will give a very leeway to increasing our GDP contribution.
I think we should wrap it up now. Give us your outlook. I mean, there are key economic policies set out this year for the government. One is the subsidy removal. Of course, the Finance Act, it's already there. Called the tax on carbonated. So it's like the government has a lot of activities in its hand with regards to different policy implementation in the year. So how overall, just give us your view, how you think this will impact on the economy and the implications thereof as we wrap up now.
Yeah. For some of the things you've mentioned, let's talk about the Finance Act, the PIA, and all those things. They are wonderful policy and the documentation that the government needs to follow. But I would just advise that this should be, majority of this thing seems not to have the human face, like we said. Take, for example, the carbonated drink that you made mention of. The reason of government venturing into it is really not what an average analyst like us supported. In the area of saying that you want to increase the revenue and talked about the earth hazard of what they are doing. Are we practicing what they are practicing in the developed world? They do that in the developed world because they provide health scheme. And they are of the opinion that if you are causing health hazard by consuming so much of sugar, you should pay more for it. But here, I consider it as double taxation. To me, the year, I don't want to sound pessimistic, it's really not too bright, because an average thing that is expected of an average citizen, government seems to be taxing more and more on us rather than creating relief. If you balance the act, you will see that we have more to pay than more to receive from the government. And that is really not too good for an average businessman. And that's why, well, if you are able to break even like an average businessman would say, let's just struggle on that. But I'm really not too optimistic about some of those things.
Maybe perhaps, again, it will be too early to to be pessimistic about the whole
because why I'm that and that,
Yeah.
the reason is because some of those policies we see in place seems to take more from the citizen than giving. At this point, we should be looking at stimulus package to bring back some of those businesses rather than looking at way to take from them. And that's why I feel that it's really not, I'm really not too optimistic. But I believe that we'll do our best. Nigerians are known for that. And we'll wither it and come out more successful.
Well, I think we should leave it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Olusegun Okwande. He's a chartered accountant, and he's been with us here on the show. Thank you for your time, for coming. We appreciate your time once again.
My pleasure, always, Frank.
You're still watching Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios here in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. We'll take a moment now. When we come back, attention will turn to capital market as the oil stock rally on the back of the third quarter positive earnings and dividend pouring in the market. So that's our talking point when we come back from this break. Please stay with us.
You go enter market, just make you go buy fresh palm fruits. When you reach house, you go wash, you go pound, your body go dey pain you, even your fingernails go dey pain you. But make una no worry, make una relax. I get good news for una. Una don hear of Banga fresh palm fruit extract. All you need to do na make you go for the open am. Take the amount wey you want, put am for your pot. Which soup you wan make? Shey na egusi, shey na ogbono, shey na vegetable, shey na banga. My sister no waste time again, my brother no waste time again. Just go buy Banga fresh palm fruit extract. They go know say you sabi cook and you be better cook.
Banga, come make your food yummy yum.
Distributors needed nationwide. Phone number 081 63974447. 08035644436 07066638213. Banga fresh palm fruit extract.
Swift Dry Cleaners Limited, professional dry cleaners, best in dry cleaning and laundry services, and meets the needs of our consumers. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Yeah, for clean wash and quick delivery. Yeah, Swift Dry Cleaners Limited. Swift Dry.
Glad to have you join us now. This is Business Breakfast coming to you live from our studios. It's time to turn our attention to the capital market now. So reviewed the market last week, the second trading week of the year. The NGX All Share Index and market capitalization appreciated by 1.37% to close the week at 44,454.67 basis points. That's the new reading, while the market capitalization is at 23.95 trillion naira respectively. A total of turnover of 1.6 billion shares worth about 32.7 billion in about 22,607 deals were traded in the week by investors on the floor of the exchange in contracts to a total of 1.2 billion shares, valued at about 59.0 billion, exchanged hands last week. Okay, so if you take a look at the top gainers, the financial services industry measured by volume, led by the activity chart with about 731.2 million shares, which was valued at 6.5 billion, traded in about 10,822 deals, contributing about 45.71% and 19.92% to the total equity turnover, volume and value respectively. So if you take a look at the gainers for the week, Bua Food is there, Transcorp, Jais Bank, fixing in the healthcare sector and academy, they are all there. So if you look at the stock of Bua, which opened for the week around 53 naira 20 kobo, closing at the end of the week at 66 naira. So you are looking at about 12 naira 80 kobo gain alone in the week. That's about 24.06% in the week alone. Transcorp is trailing behind in that regard with about 16.13%. Jais Bank is number 3 there on top of the top gainers for the week with 15.25% gain at the end of the week. You have Fixing there, you have Academy Pros PLC there with about 10 naira gain at the end of the week. But let's look at the top decliners for the week now. On the flip side, you have Shino Assurance PLC, you have Mutual Benefit, you also have Beja Paint in that category. Float Mills Nigeria is there, Custodian is there. Mutual Benefit lost about 12.90% there, and you have Float Mills losing about 70 kobo at the end of the week, while you have Julius Beja Paint, I beg your pardon, losing about 85 kobo. That's about 9.94% respectively. Well, of course, it's earnings are still trickling in. If you take a look at the earnings last week, they're all they're trickling in about more than 6 companies released their earning with very payable dividend there. But let's get to talk about the market now and look at what drove the market last week. Mr. Ambrose Amodian, Chief Research Officer, Invest Data Consulting Limited, is here with me. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, you've seen the report. Of course, the market went up as high as 1.37%. What would you say was responsible for the positives? Would I say, okay, perhaps a mixed reactions in the market we saw last week, because the first week was positive. We saw, positivity dominating the market, and then we came back in the second week. It was all a mixed market.
Yeah, actually, what happened last week that investors are expected to take profit. And I've repeated it in this program, even elsewhere, that in any market, there's free entry and free exit. And if you have made profit, there's nothing holds you. If you keep, or you can set or take your profit. And that what happened last week. We know that the first trading week of the year was positive all through. Market return about 2.66 for the first week. And at the same time, in the second week, market return about 1.37. Tells you that the whole market has almost about 4%. Then investors are about to take profit. And what we saw last week was just a missed trend that people took profit from some of their positions that have rallied within the period, and it's expected. And also, as we are looking ahead to see the earnings season, like as you just said, the numbers we just want to discuss are third quarter's results that were released not recently, as at October through November. For you as an investor to know, as we're expecting the earnings season to kick off from any moment from now, those figures that we're going to discuss, which is the third quarter, has given you an insight what you should expect from this company. After we have seen the third quarter performance and the full last year of 2020 of this company, especially seeing that the positive sentiment in the oil sector is going to play on what we're going to discuss, because there is what we call economic fundamental news or sectoral fundamental that will impact price, whether there is earnings or no earnings. If we are seeing those positive economic or sectoral news or industrial news that's going to impact on equities, you need to take advantage of it, because every investment is against expectation. If we're expecting that government is going to relieve a subsidy, and that's also going to influence positive on those companies in that sector, you don't wait to see if they remove the subsidy before you jump into the stock. That means you make every investment against the future. That's why if you are seeing positive for economic fundamentals or news on a sector or industry, it's also in addition to your earnings and also your technical position will tell you whether it's the right time for you to jump into those positions. That's why today we're looking at the earnings from the oil and gas sector of the market. Now, we have seen the performance of the market as they are said, that but for the decline stock that he mentioned, that stock that we are seeing is not flour mill, it's Northern Nigeria flour. Or flour mill is selling about 27 naira, 80 kobo.
Thank you for correcting me.
For that,
by
as
the
an
way.
investor, you should know that this is what will guide you. Not that flour mill pull back, it's opportunity for you to, because every month from now, we expect the flour mill result to be the market. But what was on the screen is not flour mill, just Northern Nigeria flour mill. So that you should know that flour mill has potential to take you where going. But we're expecting the third quarter. That means if you are seeing flour mill third quarter already, when it comes to the market, can I kind of give you a sense of direction whether you should position for their full year in March, because Q3 number in any market, any financial is very important, because they give you an insight what you look at ahead of the fourth quarter.
Just before we get into looking at the oil sector third quarter earnings, positions, I want us to look at the movement of some of these stocks. Yes, BUA was among the top gainers of the week last week. Transcorp, you have Jais Bank and all of that. BUA closed gaining about 12 naira 80 kobo at the end of the week. That's about doing almost about 24 or 25% at the end of the week. Where is this stock headed?
No, this stock has enjoyed what we call market sentiment to this level, not because of the company performance. Being a new stock admitted to the NSE, that sentiment that this stock is not available. Also, if you look at the shareholding structure of BUA, it's still just on a few hands. I still call it a family business, because you know that the shareholding is still within BUA family, and they're all. That's not really released to the public, but now they have come from of offer, or we'll call it by introduction, they came to the market. We expect that going to the future, what NTN just did by selling some shares to the public, they might likely, because I'll tell you, the 100% of that company, or 98% of the company, is still 100% in one hand, man. That means anyone from now, once they make progress into the year, they might say, okay, let's release 10%. They will still do, neither they do offer for sale or anything, but for now, I think the shareholding structure is still very, very tight, which is good. But the good thing is that we have not seen the number to support the price of BUA. But as an investor, if you have made almost 33% the previous week, also you have made another 24 points, that is almost 50% in less than 2 weeks. Nothing stops you for taking your profit. For me, it's time for you to just sell off, and come back, because we have not seen their earnings. The one we saw is the one they used to kind of list the company. And also, I said it earlier that if you are preparing to marry a woman, when it's coming to meet you, you have to dress very well, because they are coming to list. They have just prepared that number and put it for us as investors to buy. For me, until we see the subsequent number of BUA, I can't say anything more. But if you have made profit, good to take profit now.
Let's look at Transcorp, Transnational Corporation of Nigeria, the shares of Transcorp. Of course, again about 16 kobo last week, all through last week, doing about 16.3%. What is likely to be the sentiment towards, or the investor's sentiment or appetite towards the shares of Transcorp?
Actually, if you look at anywhere in the world, a utility company is where investors want to play. Why? Because they make money on the activities. But here in Nigeria, because of the structure of our energy business, Transcorp is generating more than 2,000 megawatts, and Nigeria has about 4,000 megawatts. That means more of our generation is coming from Transcorp. And if everywhere is metered, especially where they're operating and they're getting their money, that company should know it's selling less than 10 naira, because they have access to cash. But this cash, because they're not metered, they're not paying them, they are generating to send to the national grid. For that, government is not owing them. Then you can see that they have good results on the paper, on their earnings, good numbers, but they don't have cash. That's why they are still paying such 1 kobo dividend, because they don't have much cash. But in terms of prospect, this company has prospered that, yes, if you're a long-term investor that want to wait, this is the time for you to buy into it. But I see that the stock was seeing volume now. There's a positive fundamental, positive technicals. You are seeing good volume, and price is going up. Or as at Friday, getting up at a 19% gain for the last week. For me, it's a good work for Transcorp. And also, it's a kobo stock selling below 2 naira. If you're a long-term investor, also you are investing for the future. This is part of the growth stocks one can position because of the future. Because anywhere in the world, utility is where you are sure of the company making money. Because if they increase what you call the tariff to the high, people not say because the high, let's stop using light. Light is essential. That means they can pass it to the consumer. For me, for Transcorp to make good money, if you're a long-term investor, keep your position and take.
Well, okay. Well, let's see how that goes in the coming days. But let's look at the third quarter earnings for the oil index. You have the likes of Total Energy, you have corn oil in Eternal, MRS oil is there, and Oando is there. I think Oando is their dividend, there is no dividend for Wando, and as well as MRS, there's no dividend. I can't see any dividend here on their data here. But of course, for the stock of Total Energy, their dividend is about 6 naira, 73 kobo. And if you look at the total turnover for that stock, that's about 242.2. So what can you say about that?
If you look at the oil sector, for me, as an investor, I've said earlier that you look at the fundamental news or prospect or economic news in that sector. Well, I've seen that, after the COVID-19 has kind of, wreaked that industry in 2020, dropping as low as, almost negative crude oil price, that, all over the world, it affected the oil and gas sector. But when the economy started recovering, you see, they are the one that led the economy, because economies are opening up again after the lockdown. The consumption for oil and all those stuff, because they want to hit up their manufacturing sector and all, you see, the consumption was high. And that also what led that oil price has gone as high as almost 86 now, before oscillating between 80 and 83 now, which is good. And that is going to also influence our own sector here. Knowing that, yes, most Nigerians generate their light and they use fuel, and also at the same time we want also to hit up our industrial and sector, because as we speak now, I'll tell you, most of the companies that are running the big generator and all the stuff. That means there is demand for oil product. For me, we can see that it's also playing out. And don't also forget that within the period, government has adjusted price of fuel for different times. That also will impact on their performance, because if they have stock and increase price, automatically they are making profit on what they have. That has reflected on this number we are seeing. You can see that last 2 years, Total was struggling. But 2021, Total has also come up again with good numbers, putting about 13 billion as a profit after tax for third quarter. That is one for Total. And also has paid into dividend for twice, almost 44 naira. For me, and also if you look at the figure on that sector, Total is one leading in terms of turnover, and also in terms of dividend yield. You can see that the dividends of Total is about almost 6 to 7% for dividend yield. For me, it's a good one. And that is why you need to look at that sector, look at the numbers and their yields, and also look at their the profit margin. And profit margin of that sector is very, very poor. I will tell you, because they have a lot of cost. That cost have eaten into their product, into their bottom line. That you see, right, if you match the whole company there, if you match their profit after tax and their turnover, you see that there's a gross poor profit margin. I mean, it tells you that they are not efficient in terms of managing their costs, and that's a reflection of what the high capital they use for that business. For me, as an investor, if you are investing in this oil sector, be careful. What you want to do is to make profit at a short time. Don't think of more dividend, because if a company profit margin is not too attractive, they don't pay you good dividend, don't have good high payout. For me, we can play this setup for capital appreciation. Then on your dividend angle, you have to be very careful. But I know that Total is consistent, good, and they also up their game in terms of payout. You can look at it. Also, Steplat have been consistent in terms of their quarterly dividend. And it's like Steplat also numbers are also improved tremendously within 2021. It tells you that this company also look at the result of Eternal Oil. Eternal Oil is a small player in that setup, but you can see that they are opening up branches here and there, and they are coming up. And also the acquisition that happened in Eternal Oil recently is also a good one for me. And if you look at Eternal Oil, their holding structure also have changed, just as tight as Total. So also see in Eternal Oil, I see potential. But for Wando is a major player in option and downstream, just like Steplat. But you can see Steplat in the road that is telling where they are going. But for Wando, for almost 3 years, we have not seen their numbers to know the position of the company. But you can see that looking at the chart, you can see that there's positive sentiment in terms of sentiment and technical tools. That tells you that people are still playing. Look at the volume going on in Wando, and also looking at the trend lines, see that stock is still strong technically, but fundamentally, it's just only the economic news, the sector you're operating or industry that will support them. But in terms of figure, to know where they are going, there's no figure to guide investor. But I say all investment in Wando now is more speculation, because there's no data to guide us, except we are playing on technical and sentiment of the market.
Okay, let's look at how now you talk about the fact that the oil prices is rising. In the last 1 week, we've seen it rising from $81 to about $85 as at last Friday. How is this likely to impact some of the operations of these stocks, and of course the flow of equities into the stocks as well?
No, actually, if you look at what is happening in the sector, yes, we know that when price of crude oil is going up, it's going to impact in different way. One, our national reserve is one. Then, if the price of crude oil continue to go up, importation cost to bring crude oil into Nigeria, so we import our final refined product here. That means the cost of landing will be high, and that will put the government even increase fuel price up.
That's right.
Now they are even planning to remove subsidy and other stuff. If price go up, these companies that we are saying now, they want to make money, because before the price will shoot up, they have a lot of inventory on their on their tank under the ground. That area are going to boost their earnings in terms of focus. And also, if there is also subsidy removal, I'll tell you that will not say you and I to stop using light. There will still be demand for their product. They will still make money on that. And also, the new bill that was passed that creates opportunity for them also to make money in that industry. In one word or the other.
Talking about the PIA.
Yeah. In that world, that is also another advantage for that sector. And I see that because as we speak now, Nigeria has not planned about using electric motor as we speak now. Other countries, that means our consumption will still remain almost the same. That means on that note, we expect these people to be in profit.
I would like you to take us through the chart for the week, but I would like to know, where is the money? Some of you talk about the consumer goods earlier. Where is the money going to? Which of the sector or index now is investor likely to look into in terms of investment or taking position?
Let's quickly,
because you have the consumer good, you have the oil index.
Let's quickly look at
it.
I will prefer us to quickly look at the industrial goods or industrial sector. Last week the sector gained about 3.5%. I'll tell you, because of the factorial gap, and also we're expecting that Dangote buyback will also continue this week. I see some sentiment in that sector, and also BUA will not rely. Now that BUA has made money, investors have made money in BUA food. I'm telling you, they're likely to look the way of BUA cement now, because that stock has pulled back the previous week, creating opportunity to buy low. I see that stock trading around the 68 as at market close on Friday. I'm not just stopping that this morning that stock will jump up, which I know that this morning is also gaining about almost 8 to 10% already, because investors have moved to BUA cement. And now, if you look at this is the industrial in the chart for the market, and good as a trader or investor, when I look at the chart, first of all, look at the chart on a daily time frame, weekly and monthly time, to give you exactly what is happening. For quick action, you can use your daily time frame to do what is happening, but for you to take decision, you have to look at your weekly chart and your monthly chart to give you an insight where the stock is going. Now, this is a daily chart, but let's quickly look at the weekly chart for this same industrial sector. You can see that it has already turned up here. Give you a sign that on a weekly chart, the index have reversed up. That means it's trading above what? Above its moving average, and moving average of 20%, 20 days moving average, and 50 days moving average. This makes this sector a strong one to buy. And this is the weekly chart. You can see that already this is an uptrend again. And so when you see that your index action is above your trend line, automatically it's an uptrend. But the final one, you have to look at the monthly time frame for this index. Good. You can see here that this is what we call a reversal. You see this candlestick, it went down and also reversed up. The last one, then it's resisting what we call decline. Purely don't want to go down, because before the previous, you can see that it has a bearish window candlestick before trying to resist and go up. For this week, I see that this stock will go. If you come down and look at what we call the MACD is still on a bullish line. For me, the stock in that sector are where you should look at. And also the banking sector, as I said earlier, that these are the most consistent dividend paying sector. You also look at it. But I believe that the oil sector for capital appreciation is where you also should look at and trade, because I'm telling you, as from March, we start seeing those oil sector, most of them were surprised with their numbers. And if their numbers are good, in expectation of subsidy removal, I see that the sentiment will move to that sector, and that will also impact more on their price. For me, this is a time for you as an investor just to relax. Also, the outcome of MPC meeting next week, that means if you are taking a decision, if you have made money this week, you can adjust to take some profit. We don't know the outcome of MPC meeting by next week. Whether
they will retain or probably review
for me,
it.
I don't see them removing as early as the first meeting. But that should also guide you as a trader or investor, that when you are taking a decision, something that can alter the sentiment in the market is coming. If you leave it as it is, yes, good. But if they alter it, that will trigger funds
some reactions
flowing away from one market to the other. That means as an investor, it's time to invest wisely, because the market is there to create wealth for every one of us that are designed and are investing with what knowledge and figure.
I think we should leave it there. I wanted to ask, maybe we should wait or be cautious until that meeting holds.
Go ahead and play your market.
All right.
Yes.
I think we should leave it there. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, Ambrose Omodion, Chief Research Officer, Invest Data. Well, we have to take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at some of the trends in the commodities market. We'll be back in a moment. This is Business Breakfast.
Distributors are needed nationwide.
Mama, you're coming to Lagos. Banga. Baby, Mama just called me now. She's coming to see you. She asked me to tell you to make banga soup for her. And she's close to the house. Oh.
How do you expect me to prepare banga in just few minutes?
I have a solution for you.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Sabi cook the banga. You're not going to enter my family.
Pali banga is used in making other exotic dishes such as banga jollof rice, banga efo riro, banga asaro or yam porridge, banga egusi, and
And it's time to wrap it up by looking at the commodities market and global economic outlook in the commodities market. Oil prices expected to continue in price surge as supply chain challenges continue to mount. Gold prices to appreciate as inflation continue to increase. Let's look at the commodity, the metal now. Gold is trading around 1.46%. If you look at the change in that trade, that's about 0.50% in the negative territory. Between January 7th and 14th, gold, of course, the weekly change is around 1.46%, and white silver is around 1.48% in the negative. If you turn now to agri-commodity, look at cocoa, the price of cocoa, corn, and sugar. Cocoa is trading around 2,662, and that's about 4.56% surge there. You have the price of corn decline. Meanwhile, demand for corn has declined gradually as prices are expected to steady this week. According to analysts at ProShare, higher yield could put pressure on prices of corn, forcing it to rise again. But if you take a look at the price of sugar, sugar export is expected to slow down, forcing a possible supply to demand gap that may lead to price appreciation. Sugar is around about 18.34, that's $18.34, closing the week in the negative, losing about $1. 2.60% there. So if you compare the weekly change, you will discover that there's a bit of low demand for the sugar commodity. Well, Brent crude is around $85, trading there, $85.16 per barrel last week. But we keep our fingers crossed on this commodity market and see what plays out this week. Well, that's much we can take today on the program. Many thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Frank Omalape. From all of us here, we'll see you again.